Hello and welcome. So let's start how the Golden Age of Spain started. So I'll give a small intro of it. The Golden Age of Spain, Siglo de Oro, is a moment in history when Spain's reach, culture and influence expanded like never before. For centuries, Spain had been fractured by multiple kingdoms, internal conflict, religious divisions, and shifting allegiances. But in 1492, everything changed. That year marks the turning point when Spain stepped onto the world stage, unified, ambitious, and poised for greatness. In this narration, I'll walk you through how that transformation happened, the political unification, the decisive events of 1492, the financial and institutional foundations, and the early imperial expansion that set Spain on the trajectory to its golden age. This is the rise, not the fall. Political and religious unification before 1492, setting the stage. Before 1492, the Iberian Peninsula was a patchwork. Christian kingdoms in the north, Castile, Aragon, Navarre, vied with one another, while Muslim rule remained in the south, in Granada. Jewish and Muslim communities had lived across the peninsula for centuries, participating in commerce, scholarship, and local administration. The key turning point was the marriage of Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon in 1469. This alliance combined two of the most powerful Christian realms and provided a basis for centralized authority. Each kingdom kept its own laws and institutions, but the union gave the Catholic monarchs political strength they lacked before. As this new monarchy consolidated power, it pursued policies of religious conformity. The idea, a united Spain under Catholicism, would be more stable, easier to govern, and better able to face external enemies. Religious minorities were increasingly pressured to convert or conform, and suspicion and surveillance grew. Institutions also evolved. The monarchy invested in strengthening royal courts, legal codes, and tax systems that cut across regional differences. The crown's ambition was no longer just survival or defense. It aimed for expansion. The year 1492. The turning point, everything converged in 1492. January 2nd, 1492. The fall of Granada, the last Muslim kingdom in Iberia. After centuries of conflict, the Reconquista, Christian monarchs completed the conquest. The military and symbolic victory meant that the Iberian Peninsula was now entirely under Christian rule. March 1492, the Alhambra Decree, also known as the Edict of Expulsion, was issued. It required practicing Jews within the crowns of Castile and Aragon to either convert to Catholicism or leave by the end of July. Many opted for conversion, others left. Some estimates say tens of thousands were expelled, though exact numbers vary. October 12, 1492. Christopher Columbus, sailing under the Spanish flag, landed in the Americas. That voyage opened the door to European colonial expansion and a flow of wealth, resources, and influence unlike anything before. These three events, the conquest of Granada, the religious edict, and the Atlantic expedition, became symbolic pillars of the Golden Age's beginning. The aftermath, the monarchy now faced fewer internal religious enemies and had ideological justification to promote Catholic unity. Newly empty resources, administrative, military, territorial, could be redirected toward overseas expansion. The promise of new lands gave the crown hope for revenue, glory, and geopolitical leverage. Financial and institutional foundations. The Golden Age did not spring from thin air. Spain's rise depended on certain economic and institutional mechanisms, some inherited, some newly built. Royal finances and borrowing Spain's monarchy was ambitious and expensive. Wars, conquests, court life, and maintaining far-flung territories demanded vast funds. The crown often borrowed from foreign financiers, especially Genoese banking houses. These bankers lent capital against royal revenue and tax receipts because Spain lacked a strong domestic banking network ready to underwrite enormous state debts. Much of its financial leverage relied on foreign capital. The monarchy also imposed forced loans, tax farming selling tax collection rights, and special levies when needed. Colonial revenue and silver. With the discovery of the Americas, Spain gained access to enormous quantities of precious metals. Over the coming decades, the Spanish money supply ballooned. One estimate suggests that from 1492 to 1810, the money supply in terms of silver equivalents increased more than tenfold. To manage colonial trade and revenue, Spain created institutions such as the Casa de Contratación, which regulated all trade, navigation, and taxation between Spain and its colonies. A key tax, the Quinto Real, Royal Fifth, mandated that 1/5 of all precious metals entering Spain went straight to the crown. These institutions anchored Spain's empire financially, collecting wealth, enforcing mercantile policies, and channeling resources back into the European realm. Administrative centralization. To govern its expanding domains, the monarchy gradually strengthened centralized administration. Royal councils, legal tribunals, and bureaucratic offices were staffed by officials loyal to the crown. Regional privileges and local autonomy were reduced over time to create a more uniform rule. This centralization allowed for consistency across far-flung territories, from Iberia to the Caribbean, and enabled taxes, laws, and policies to be enforced more effectively. Early imperial expansion and consolidation. Once the machinery was in place, Spain pushed outward. The initial steps were dramatic. Conquest in the Americas, Spanish conquistadors like Hernán Cortés of Mexico and Francisco Pizarro, Peru, toppled powerful indigenous empires. Territories were claimed, resources and labor seized. The crown organized colonial administration, often granting encomiendas, land plus indigenous labor, to settlers under crown oversight. Strategic outposts and naval control. Spain focused on controlling trade routes, ports, and naval dominance in the Atlantic and Caribbean. The ability to move gold, silver, sugar, and other goods securely between colonies and Spain became central. Cultural patronage. The monarchy increasingly funded intellectual, artistic, and architectural projects to project prestige. The crown used culture as soft power, commissioning cathedrals, supporting authors, and advancing Spanish identity. These expansions were not costless. Military campaigns required logistical support, naval fleets needed maintenance, and colonial territories demanded administration and defense. But the early inflows justified the push. The Golden Age takes shape, from strength to momentum. By the mid-1500s, the foundations were solid and momentum carried Spain upward. Unified identity and legitimacy. A Spanish identity bound around Catholicism and loyalty to the crown eclipsed older regional loyalties. This ideological coherence helped stabilize internal politics. Wealth flow, silver and gold from the New World flowed into Spain. Markets, finance, and commerce swelled. Spanish cities like Seville became bustling hubs of trade. Cultural flourishing. As wealth and political power grew, so did patronage of the arts. Writers, painters, sculptors, and architects found royal and church support. The Spanish language's prestige increased. Its literature and drama stirred the imagination of Europe. Global presence. Spain now operated on a global scale. Its influence reached across oceans, across continents. It was no longer just a European power, but a world empire. During this rise, economic, religious, and political decisions reinforced one another. The crown's need for revenue legitimized colonial expansion. Cultural projects affirmed religious legitimacy. Global reach, in turn, fed prestige back into the monarchy's authority. The conclusion to it, the launch of an empire. By the close of the 16th century, Spain had transformed. From a fractured peninsula struggling with internal divisions, it became a global empire, wealthy, powerful, and culturally vibrant. The Golden Age had begun not through a single miracle, but through deliberate choices: unification, religious framing, financial innovation, institutional rigor, and bold expansion. This is the dawn of Spain's Golden Age. The stage was set. And that was it. If you guys want, I can also make a video on the other things, like how it ended, cause and reasons and other stuff. Until then, like and subscribe.